Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to do a repair on a set of Lister Liberty horse clippers. I'm Simon and welcome to Oakside Saddlery. So the box has come, it's all open, obviously bigger than what you expect. First impressions when you get it, when I look at these, just to see what's in it, what's about, there's a few bits and pieces. She's got a problem with the battery pack on these, so she has purchased a second battery pack that hopefully is the right one for that. I'll see when I get it apart and have a look at it properly. So we'll install that, make sure it's working. To me it looks like there's something missing off the end there. I can't see how that will have been a proper fitting for it unless that's expected to be soldered or something in there. I reckon it should have had one of them on it, probably snapped off somewhere. So we'll have a look, see if I can find something to fit on there. Otherwise, what have we got? Bag of blades, they're in for sharpening as well. I don't do sharpening, but I do send them to a chap who's near me, so he just does them for me and I don't charge any extra for that, so we'll sort them out. These are the ones that they want looking at, so these are the Lister Liberty. They're a battery powered one, so you have a big battery pack that goes on the belt. So again, we'll look at that when we come to it. Strip these apart, see what we can get. We've got chargers, so the chargers are what we would be testing for a pat test if need be. There's 3 chargers in here. I'm guessing that they don't all fit the same thing, and perhaps one is for these, which are little Lister Meteor. She wants these to be looked at as well because I think they're not clipping properly, so that may be another little later separate look. But for now, let's look at the ones we've got. So let's get rid of this. And let's look at these. So the battery pack, you've got a little reset on them. You have a charging port. This is a funny one. Let's have a look to see if that was one of the chargers. Yep, that is one of them chargers in there. So the same fittings as this one. They push in, they'll only go one way. They charge and monitor and does everything else at the same time. And normally a couple of little screws in there, they come apart and these go in. They're quite easy to do. They're not complicated. See what they look like. Clippers themselves then. Outside looks pretty good. Cable doesn't look too bad. No damage to it as such. Although it has got a bit of flex on there, which might be the problem more than a battery pack. We'll test that when we come to it. Let's have a look then. Start stripping them down. So blades are off first. So tension up, blades. Blades we can see are fairly hairy. What's hairy? Hairy. Bit of oil and grease on there. We'll just keep them together for the time being. Motor itself actually turns, or something turns and feels like it's got a gear in there. So clipper head's coming off first. That's a little Phillips screwdriver in there, cross head. And this should just lever off of here. There it is. So I have a small gear and the drive cogs inside there. Let's have a look at these. Probably need a different screwdriver for this. So let's have a nose. There's a lot of hair in there. See where the hair's coming out? This is always quite a giggle sometimes with these. Lots in spots. I think they're a Phillips. Feels like a Phillips. Quite tight. So first one comes out. These may be different sizes, different top and bottom. If they are, I'll have to remember which one goes where. I don't want to come out. That one does. Just a normal little self tapper, nothing special these. That one's tight. So I've got one more out. These two don't want to come out. Still don't want to come out. Definitely loose. I can hear it clicking. This one's definitely loose, but it's just decided to stay caught in there. I pull it apart. That soon come apart then. God, it says. There it goes. Little plate on these. The back of these one's quite a clever design. So this bit here has actually got a bit of plastic that runs behind there. So rather than having to cut that label, which quite often you end up doing, these ones actually come apart. So you'll see that start to move. Now I'm going to put a screwdriver in there, push that apart. Oh, there it goes. See where that bit of plastic keeps on the back there? It's quite a clever design on these. So the motor's sitting on this side here, so nothing's going to move. There it goes. So we can get them screws out now, because if I don't get them out now, I'll lose them later on. Guarantee. There's one out. There's the other one out. So when I come to wash that case out and clear all that grease out, guarantee I'll knock them screws out and drop them somewhere. Not be able to find them again. So motor and that, they're not simple. They're a nice motor. These is a 12 volt motor. 12 volt, yep, 12 volt motor. Quite a good motor. The way they're built is quite strong and sturdy. They're very simple. Can't do nothing with them. They're just sitting there with two little screws sitting there. They're just a lug. They're not designed to hold it in place, and I think it's probably fairly loose yet. And a little switch. And a little switch turns it on and off. That's it. Really simple inside. Nothing complicated in these at all. So that can come out of there. This can come out of here. The hardest part we have with these, see in the back there? So these wires are designed to sit in a little slot that's behind there, which you can't see. Now look at that one. Where are we? There somewhere. See where that's been squashed? So that's been trapped from manufacture. It's been trapped in there. It still works, but it's not what it should be. There's probably a bit of heat going to build up in that over time. And it's just where them wires are not sitting quite right in that case. So though they have a good design, that's a poor design. Could have thought of that a lot better, I think. Eject that wire. See where it's trapped there? Look at that. Now that could be a problem more than anything else, because that's less than a millimetre thick. So I'll have to have a think about this. If I can move this, I might chop the end off and rewire them, redo them. So there we go. So we'll have them a clean. That'll be a clean. This will be a clean. Let's have a look at this case now then. So battery packs on these. We'll have a little test of it and see what we get. Two screws in there. Lid comes off. The battery pack just sits inside. It's just designed to be able to clip to your belt, isn't it? So first one's in there. That one's free. And that one's free. One screw out, two screws out. Same screws as the other ones. I'm just going to put them separate over there for the time being. Back comes out, and then from in there we can see some of the wiring we've got. So you can see that some of them terminals on there aren't used. It's only two of them are being used, and we was right in what I said. Shouldn't have a clip because they're soldered. This one here does have a clip, so one end's going to have a solder on it, one end's not. That's to reset a thermo fuse. And then the battery pack will be sitting in there. So there's your battery pack. They look the same to me, so they'll probably go. I'll just drop that one in this case just to make sure it fits all right. Yep, so that'll go in there. We'll rewire that. Before I take this apart, I'll make sure I know exactly how these wires are all going to work and figure out what the hell that is. Looks like a bit of tape. Someone's special repair, I do believe. It's probably got one of them fittings on there and it's underneath that taped up bit, whereas this one's going to be soldered direct up to there. These are always a laugh to solder because you tend to get too hot and melt the plastic if I'm not careful. And the other end just plugs in, so that'll be all right. So I'll get them cleaned up and then we'll come back and have a look at the rest of it. Welcome back. So everything's cleaned up. We've tidied a lot of it up. I'm going to get some of it together. Some of it I'm going to test out first just to see what it is. Purely for the fact that I've got a feeling that that wire is more of a problem. That wire is more of a problem than what that was. But we'll have a look, see how we get on. So I'm going to leave the motor first of all. I'm going to leave that off to the side and I'm going to have a look at this battery pack and see what we've got. So let's get rid of some of this stuff. So 2 battery packs. They're 12-volt batteries. Both of them are hopefully 12-volt. Doesn't say anything on that one. That one says 12-volt, and I'm guessing, looking at them, even though they have a big battery pack, they're inside it are just individual cells. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. Simple enough, isn't it? So it'd be 1.5, 1.5, 1.5 all the way through, and it'll add up to 12-ish thereabouts. We're going to be a live and a neutral, so I think that has either been repaired or replaced before, and that has got a fitting on like that, and someone's taped it all up on there. However, 2010 by the looks of it, so it's old, but not that old as batteries go. So let's have a quick look then. Power wise, I would expect around about 12 volts. So I'm just going to use a nice simple multimeter. These aren't complicated, only cheap if you want to buy one. They have little plugs on the end. I've already taken one off of them just to protect the pointy bits. The idea with the pointy sharp bit is I could push it through the actual casing of a wire if I wanted to, the sheath of a wire, and get a voltage on it just to check something. So at the moment on this one, I'm going to put it down to 20 volt DC, so that's a straight one. 20 volt is basically, or 12 volt rather, on here is what would be a car voltage, isn't it? They're always twisted up. No matter how much I try, they always get twisted up. So I would expect to see somewhere around 12 volt on this new battery pack. So I'm going to put one into the live. This one I should be able to just jam into the end there and hopefully get something. And we've got 10.8, not bad. Once that's been on charge, that should be good. On this one here then, I'm expecting the same. So between the two wires that are coming out, so one of them's over here. So that one's in there somewhere. And the other one is going to be one of these, which is probably this one here. That's me. Let's have another go at that. And I've got 12 volts out of there. So that is now actually telling me that that battery pack probably hasn't got nothing wrong with it, unless it's not holding the charge. I'll still swap it for her and swap it out, but I'd rather now thinking that that is that motor's wire. So let's have a look at that then. So let's put that to the side this time, and we'll have this back. So the wiring on there, though it's got 3 pins in here, if we can see them, what can I point with? That screwdriver. We've got 3 pins in here, so we can see there's 1, 2 and 3 there. We know by looking at the wiring on this, only 2 of them are used. So it's the 2 outer ones that are used, the 2 others aren't used at all. So I should get, so I'm going to change this now. So we don't want voltage, I'm going to look for resistance, ohm resistance. And I'm going to switch it all the way around because I don't care about what resistance it is, onto the one where it will buzz at me. So if I've got a contact continuity all through the circuit, it'll buzz. And then it'll tell me what the voltage, the continuity is for it and what the resistance is. So assuming you can hear that beep, we should be able to test on it. So we're going to check our cables, they work. I'm going to come down to the switch then. Let's have a check between the switch because I can tell if it's on or off then. On there. On there, so the switch is on, which is a good thing. We're now going to check then between this brown wire and them 2 pins. So I can get that simply just by holding it in there. And then on the 2 pins here, I'm going to give it a little go. So we've got something through that one. In fact, we've got something through both of them. So it's going through the motor itself as well, which isn't an issue. Let's have a little wiggle around then with what we've got. So that's not helping me much. It's told me that yes, I've got a bit of voltage, a bit of power travelling through these, but it's not really telling me if that wire's broke or not because it's going to be going through. These are soldered. That's soldered. And the only way I can really check that now is to take that solder off. So I'm going to set up for that. Get that wire off of there. Get them wires off of there. And then I'll come back and have another nose. So speak to you again soon. So I've set up, repositioned the camera. Going to have a look at getting this brown wire, this brown wire off of this switch here. So soldering gun's on, not too much on it. All I've got to do is heat this up. When they're old, they tend to take ages to actually start to go. If I was really bothered, I could have put a flat point on there. So see where it's starting to melt the solder, and that's our wire off. Try and keep the heat down to a minimum when you do that. You want as low as you can have it, otherwise it starts to damage all the components and everything else on it. So Not too bad on that one. That's a nice simple one. We're going to have another little test on these two components again. So we've now got a separate wire. So get my voltmeter back onto my beeping noises. Check that it beeps. Should see this number go down as low as it can, really. That means it's got very little resistance. So I'm going to put one onto this end and the other one on this end here. Got a contact there, nothing on that one. So there's our contact. That's not too bad. So let's have a little flex about then whilst we're doing this. Hang on, drop my wire then. Put that on there. Put that on there. So we've got, oh, and then it's cutting out, see? So it's never a good sign if a wire does that. I think we're going to have to replace this wire, so it's just a little bit more work. It's probably broken right through there, or got a very few strands on it, so we'll sort that one out. Whilst I got my solder gun out though, I'm going to redo that battery pack, so let's have a look at that. So I bet I messed up there and pressed the wrong button. I have removed this battery pack. I found a crimp connector under there, which if the wire's not long enough, you're not going to be able to do anything at this end and join it inside the battery pack, not without damage and everything. So probably, yeah, the best way of doing it. We've now got the new one here. The new one's got one end that's going to be soldered onto this pin, and the other end is just a push fit onto there. So we'll gear ourselves up to do that. I need to tidy this end up first and gear it up and tin it up. So we're going to strip a little bit off the end. Doesn't need to be much. A little small amount in there like that. And give it a little tight twist. Then I'm going to heat it up and melt a bit of solder into the end of it. So this is where you run out of hands, especially when I'm trying to video things at the same time. So let's lose some of this. So the idea of tinning your first bit is it makes it stick easier on the next ones. So once the solder starts to melt on the wrong side of the thing, you can see it's shiny still now. The idea of this one then, what we really want to do is remove some of that old solder. So we can do that. This is a desoldering tool. So it's just like a big vacuum thingy on there really. So we're going to heat that up, put this close, press the button, and it sucks the solder away from the end. It's clever, isn't it? So this one here, we're going to put the two close together, get them comfortable so we can have it, see what we're doing. Somewhere around here somewhere. Going to heat it up. Heat the pair of them up rather. Try not to burn my fingers at the same time. And as always, it's having none of it. Once your solder starts to go and it's melted on there, just try and keep it really steady, because if you keep it nice and still, it then keeps it. See where the pin's gone loose? Does it all blooming times. There you go, got on there, so that's all right. Don't need to solder on anymore. I'm going to switch that off, reposition things around, put this last switch on. So let's just connect that up onto there before I go and blooming forget. And this should be, and you bloody Nora. I can edit that out surely. I'll do that in a minute. Switch that off before I burn myself. Good, so we now have a new soldered part that's on there, two wires that are attached. This will all sit into that battery pack and sit somewhere around there, however it goes. I'm not sure how it sits in that, but we'll find out when we come to put it together. Get rid of that, don't want that again for the time being. Okay, I'm going to reposition the camera again. Wait one. Okay, so we're going to put this battery pack in. Both belt clips go in there. Make sure they're in place. Pack itself is going to slide in. This looks quite tight to me, so that's got to go into there. One of them wires has got to be caught up here. The rest of it's all going to slide down inside there, and somewhere along here, all of this lot's got to sit in. It's a nice round bottom, so the thing won't stay still. That's as far in as that battery pack goes. If I put this on top of here, I can see that some of the wires and the clip's going to sit down one side of it, and some are going to sit on top of it by the looks of it. So it's going to sit somewhere in there. Let's just push that in place. It'll sit there. So we should be able to get some screws in here. So these are the two screws that, excuse my fat arm getting in the way. One goes in there. It's quite tight, this battery pack, I must admit. I think it's a little bit bigger than the other one. Just a touch. And the other one's going to drop in there. So tighten these up. We should see it all start to pull everything into place by the looks of it. That one's tight. So is that. So one of the advantages then, this is only 12 volt and this is only 12 volt, which means I can actually plug things in and test them at the same time. 240 volt, there's no way I'm going to plug something with mains voltage on it when I've got bare wires inside. So I would actually have to test all this as it is. I still think that that is a problem. See where that's pinched right in there? That is such a bad thing. Bad design. Really, where them wires go. Why are they not just held in place on the motor so that when you stay there? Might put a bit of tape on it when I put them together. But I can put this together. So it's going to plug in one way or the other. Don't know which way it goes. That way. Should have 12 volt in here now. And the other thing we should have is a switch that's on. So if I touch on this, should see if we get a motor turning. So can you see that? So it is actually running. Let's have a little flex around. Still running. And now it's stopped. So it's still working with that. I'm surprised. I'm still not happy with it, so I'm probably still going to replace it. I might just cut it out, shorten it, put another bit of wire in there and put a bit of heat shrink on it. So whilst I've got my soldering iron out, I've got to solder that back on. I might just do that. It'll probably be a lot easier and a bit neater. Probably last a lot longer. So let's set up for that and we'll have another play. There we go. So found my heat sleeve in. Heat tube, whatever you want to call it. Going to resolder these. I'm going to cut that one off. Not sure if I'm going to shorten it or whether I'm going to actually put a new piece of wire. I think I'll probably put a fresh little bit of wire in it so I can cut it a little bit further back. So I'm going to tidy that up, cut that off, tidy the end up, get a bit of tin on it, and we'll see how we get on with it. So first one is to take a little snip just on there somewhere. Actually, I'm going to take it just underneath where that is. And again, we're going to just tidy up the ends. So a little bit off of it. Stick my soldering iron back on again, as I turned it off earlier, and now I want it hot. Find an odd little bit of wire that I've got somewhere. Wait, one. Third time lucky, got another bit of wire, and this one's the right size. So again, we'll just tidy this up. It's got a bit rough on the end of that, so I'll just scrape that off of there. Okay, for solder to stick, you really want everything really shiny, and that wire's a bit dusty, a bit corroded. Nice little loose twiddle on it. This one's the same. A little bit on there. Just take a little bit more of that off. Okay, another little twiddle. Then what we're going to do is tin both of them and then stick them together. So first one is this one. Going to heat the wire up. Once the solder starts to melt on it, then we know we're good. There it goes. Just work that one through. We're going to do the same on this one. So again, heat that wire up. I'm taking a bit more to heat through. There it goes. Get there in the end. And then what I'm going to do is line these two up. Now, to get these to stay together, I run out of hands. So I have got a little thing that's quite handy. It's called a multi-hand thingamajiggy. I don't think it's called that. It's called something else. Let me find it for you. Now, these things. Multi-hands, multi-grips, whatever you want to call them. They're quite good. They've got light on them, magnifying glasses and all sorts. But it does mean, what I can do is grip one of these, hold it there, a bit of gap for it, and I can grip the other side, hold it there, and then I can actually get them to be where I want them to be, which is somewhere around there. Holding them steady, I can heat it and tin it at the same time without moving too much from it. So see where they're melting. Once they start to melt, keep a bit of heat. Now it keeps it perfectly still, makes it much better as a bond on it. Yeah, so it works really well. Let them clips go, give that a tug. We can see that's got that on there. Give it a little squeeze, as I tend to do with these, just because it makes that heat tube fit down slightly better. So a little squeeze of that in, a squeeze of that in. Now I need a bit of heat sleeving that's going to fit over that, and not too big, not too small. It's probably the one that I haven't got. These are always too small for my little stumpy fingers, and I can't ever pick the blooming things up. Something like that. So heat sleeve tubing is just an insulator that goes tight when you heat it. So you can squeeze it over. What you got to do is remember though, if this was welded soldered on the other end, put that on first. As its name suggests, it reacts to heat, so I could use my hot air gun, but that makes a lot of noise. So I'm just going to use basic bog standard lighter for the time being. And all we'll do is run it underneath, and you'll see it start to shrink onto the thing. Look at that. And that now adds a bit of strength, stops a bit of flexibility, and also insulates it against the casing and everything else. Yeah, good. Gonna have a little tidy up. Back again. Okay, I've tidied up a bit. Got rid of some of my wires. Don't need that one anymore, but it might be handy for working out my length. These are going to sit alongside here, and it needs to reach to where that switch is. So it's going to be, looking at that one, it seems to be about there, which I think it would have been longer. So that's a good one to check. So it's around about there, around about there. So we're going to cut that off. Get rid of that. I'm going to strip the end of that wire off a little bit. Just into there. I'm going to tin the end of this one, so we're going to heat it up. A little bit of solder onto the end. This wire doesn't like a solder. Yeah, so we've got tin on there. And we've got a bit on this side, which was an old one, wasn't it? So I might actually strip that off, actually. Where's my helping hands on? That's what I get for tidying up. I'll put them away. Just hold that still and I can see what I'm doing then. Because I need two hands to do all this. So set this back up again. Bit of heat onto there. Once it starts to melt it, Just going to suck some of that off of there. As you reset these, it takes it back out. So we've now got a bit in there which we need a bit of tin on. That's that end sorted there. I'm going to get in the way here, aren't I, as I do this. That's going to come across to there. That's still turned on. That works. Let's unplug it, eh? At least we know the wire was alright. Could have tested it first. And just melt this one onto here. So we're going to heat the pin up a little bit. Heat the wire at the same time. And we'll start to see them melt. What a nice flow. That didn't look very nice to me. That's better. There we go. So that's our new wire added to our new box. So let's switch that off. We can hold this as it is. We're going to plug it in. Just there. And if I switch that on and off, there you go. That looks good to me. Gonna have another tidy up, get rid of some stuff that I don't need. I've set back up again, ready to go. I need to get that motor back in here. I've got to try and remember how it all went together because it's been a while now since I've had everything else apart. And not too bad. The way the motor sits, it just rests in there. It's not complicated. So this is the case where the wire runs down. So that one's got to go in first. So this wiring and that switch all have to fit in. So let's have a little fiddle where this is going to work. Try and line it all up first of all. So the wires are there, the switch is there. So the switch is going to sit onto that point there. And then wires have all got to fit up and round into that. So I can see where that was. Let's push them into there. So the wire's going to sit into there. This is going to sit. Goodness gracious. That's going to sit in there. So there's our switch for it. These are going to go into there. And what their idea is now is they are meant to sit. That goes on there. These are meant to sit in. Can you see that? There's a little cutouts there. So one of these wires now is a little bit bigger, isn't it? The idea is they all sit in that bit there. Which is a bit awkward when it comes to doing this because you can't actually see now where it's meant to go. You know what, I might put a bit of electrical tape on that and just hold that in place. Right, wait one, let me go and get some tape. Okay, I've got some insulating tape here, so I only want a little piece of it, just enough to hold them still. I'll put a bit of that off. I'm going to just tear it off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push them down into where I want them to be, and I'm just going to try and get them flat. Stick a bit of tape over the top. That bit of tape should hopefully hold that in place enough so it doesn't keep moving. That's better. So now when I put this motor in there, I can twist it into place. I love these designs. How did that fit in there when that sticks out of that? Must move. Probably doesn't. I'm going to have to watch that first video back. That doesn't fit in there. That wire's in the way. Right, let me wait. Go and have something else. Look at my video back and it don't really show me anything. It is like that. So my tape's all got moved now where I've been fiddling with it. So let's jam that all back in place again. Make sure it's back into that little spot. What I can see on there is that way round, which means it's got like a little push to the top of it. So it could be that it's just pushed up out of the way up to the side there somewhere. Or better still, leave it off and then jam it in afterwards. So that's our wire. That is a bit tight. I don't like that at all. So far, These have not been my base designs. So that wire there is touching on the back of the motor, so we can't have that. And that one there is free, so that one's all right. That wire itself just gets jammed down the side there, which again is not the best of things. It's where they make these as small as possible to get them in, but it's in there. It turns all right. So we're happy with that. The switch is in place and it will turn itself on and off. Let me just get this casing back on balance. So we line the back up, we line the front up. It should all sit together quite nicely. So one of the things you've really got to fight the urge when things don't go quite right. So this thing isn't itself not going to go back in place. And it's probably because that switch has just got itself caught up. There it goes. So it's just starting to free up and we should be able to get in there. Before I do anything, I'm going to make sure that motor's still free. So let's find my screws. They're still around. I haven't lost them, which makes a change. One goes in there. Lost my screwdriver there. And one done up. Second one done in. Third one connected in. Oh, magnetic. So one in. Let's start getting them done up tight now. One's up tight. That one's up tight. That one's up tight. So last check. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. Looking good. Just going to stick my finger in there. Just make sure that still turns. That's okay. Plug them in and see what happens. So it goes in there. It might already be turned on. That's good. And we have a motor spinning. Don't sound great though. Hear it. Not happy. I'm not happy. Just sounds a bit rough to me. That sounds better, but it's got something loose. Okay, this is what happens sometimes. Simple jobs take longer. I'm going to have to strip these back down and have another look at them because I'm still not happy with them. Might put a bit more lubricant on that bearing and just see what it is. See if there's anything on there. Good, so here we go again then. So it screws out. I'll tell you what, let's unplug it first before it starts up on me again. One of these things, stuff like this, you think, oh, that'll be alright, that's a nice quick job. An hour later, still at it. Still at it, still don't work. Sometimes repairs are good, sometimes repairs aren't so good. And just to make you happy, my dog is outside with a mouse playing with it. Ugh. Oh, she's, yeah, don't want to know. Don't want to know. So let's get these apart again because these were tight last time, so they're still tight this time. So they're going to stick this way. Get the motor out. Get the switch back out. I could film this again and pretend that I like just started it, couldn't I? And you'd be like, oh yeah, look at all them lovely bits of wire in there. It's got quite a lot of movement on it. That might be why it's rattling. Can you hear that? Let's go for a bit more oil on it, see if it smooths it up any. So attempt 5,599, I think it is. Got it back together. I've had another little go. Still rattling. It's got a bit freer. Oh, it's not bad. So I've got more oil into them bearings on there. Right, the first one I really couldn't get to very easy. A little bit more on there. I put some contact cleaner in there just to see if that starts it off. Everything else all seems pretty good going. So we'll have another laugh at getting them back together. And hopefully now we've seen it the first time, it might go a bit better, easier than it did just now. So again, our switch is going to go into place first. So line them up. It's going to line up with them too. I told you it'd go quicker, isn't it? And our wires are all going to sit in there. So that's our first part done. The wiring again has got to just sit into that bit there, hasn't it? So again, I'm going to do what I done last time and put a bit of tape over that. Funny enough, I've got the tape handy this time. So the first one is going to be here. So let's get this nice and flat again. Bit of tape into it there. I'll keep it off of that seam on there because they're obviously held in there for a reason. I'm going to leave the wire off this time and just see if we can't get that in. Oh, help if I put it in the right way around, won't it? So this is going to sit in there. That's still not right. That's going to sit in there. Still not right. God, you can see why they got that wrong, can't you? So let's try and keep that in there. That's going to sit in there. That feels better. This wiring then twisted round and was jammed in, wasn't it? So that was just jammed in there. We need to pull all these wires away from that bearing because it gets in the way. So I have one up there. Where's that one going this time? That one didn't want to go around there last time. That one around there. Happy with that. Better. That one there, that one there, that one there. That feels better. Yeah, so the casing again, we need to line that little plate up with the piece at the back first. So that's going to sit in there. And then we just push everything else into place. Wiggle with our switch until it lines up again. That went better this time. I've probably lost some of them screws now because I didn't really take a lot of notice what I did with them. So one in there. One here. Got this one here. Well, I should do a outtakes edit on this one. It's going to be great fun trying to edit this lot back to one coherent thing. Should have a bloopers reel. Mind you, it'd be full up of beeping, me swearing. Not that I swear, obviously, because that would be really bad. No, oh, I might do. Anyone who knows me knows what I like. I do really well on here, not to be saying some colourful metaphors. Tighten that one up. Tighten that one up. Tighten that one up. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. So, quick test again. Yep, that's all nice and free. Get this plug back in. It goes in there like that. Let's have another go. Still not the greatest. I think our motor might be on the way out rather than that battery pack. Sounds better in some places than it does in others. Best we're going to get, unless they want to put a new motor in, which I doubt they very much would like to do. All I've got to do, put the head back on there. Again, these are the same. If they're nylon, they don't always have grease on them. So nylon to brass wouldn't necessarily have grease, but it had a little bit of grease on it. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease with it. Nothing fancy. All this is is a bog standard multi-purpose grease. Yes, you can probably get different ones and it'll do all these things. All it's meant to do is just lubricate a little bit around where that cogs meet. So that's all it's for. The other thing we need is a little drop of oil into that bearing there. So I'm going to get our clipper oil out for these, and we're just going to give it a little squirt into there, and it's got another one just on there. So that's that. Again, remove our excess. Because I spent so long doing the other bit, I nearly forgot all about this stuff. Make sure that's getting down there. So when you put your oil through these on the blades, it actually puts oil onto this as well. It doesn't just do your blades. You need to think about getting some oil into there. These are simple. They're just going to sit into here, push into place. It should line itself up pretty much. Not that. You've got a screw there and a screw here. Should have a little spring washers on there to hold them still. So first one, not too tight, just enough to tighten them up. Next one, and then once they're both in, you can then check everything's in place, nothing's caught. Tighten that one, and tighten that one. And that should be all there. Let's turn it back on again. Still turns it. I reckon that's pretty good going, isn't it? Does work. Might not be the best, but it's still working. See how well they get on with them. Anyway, this is the Liberty. Should be a nice clipper. Probably that are if they're brand new and they sort of work well. But these, I think, are starting to get on their way out a little bit. But battery pack puts on your belt. Makes it easy to use, and you can get a mains power version of the same type of clipper. I'm going to give her that battery pack back. I've got a feeling there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's probably the motor, and it just needs to do. I'm going to put a bit of tape over them terminals, because obviously if that is a battery pack and that touched on there, they will spark, and I'd rather not it spark whilst it's in my workshop, to be honest. So we'll take that up, and that's us done. So if you enjoyed that video, click that like button. If you thought it was a comedy value, click the like button. If you thought I was swearing a lot, click the like button. Think about sharing, subscribing, and if you want more swearing and subscribing, just leave a comment below. It just makes me laugh, I suppose. So it's safer, better, hopefully, and we should do it. So click that like, click that subscribe button. Have a good day, and see you next time. Oh.